Welcome, everybody. John Zager, good morning. How is everyone? Let's see, it's Monday morning. 56 degrees here in the eastern slope of Colorado. I don't know, 7:45, yeah, 7:45. Clear skies, see the mountains to the west here, just a few miles in front of me. Plenty of snow still up there, runoffs going pretty strong right now. Probably have runoff for, I don't know, maybe a couple more weeks into June, and then it should start easing up. For all of you fly fishing people, now is not exactly the best time to be coming and fishing. It's just too high. You have to put on a lot of weight and get to the bottom and fish nymphs. I kind of like the dry fly thing myself, so need to get past the runoff. But beautiful here in Colorado. Hope you guys are all well and had a good weekend. Coffee's cool as usual, so there you go. Let's see. Where am I this morning? I'm at my original little park with the lake, and I'm a little bit late in getting here. Everything looks green and lush. But we're going to drive out to where I do my research at, and I'm going to do my podcast in the interim, going from here to there. Podcast this morning is about resistive thinking. Boy, is this a big topic, huh? This is a big topic. I run into this all the time with people. Resistive thinking, and has to do with people that, they have an opinion or a view that their way is correct, and what they're doing is the only way. That sort of, I guess we'd call it mentality, yeah? And it can create a lot of problems for both them and the people that they're dealing with. So some examples of that, yeah? Some examples of that might be, here I'm driving. Mentality of people driving. They've gotten a lot more aggressive because they're having resistive thinking, They want to be where they want to be, and you need to not be in their way. That's pretty resistive. So you get a fair amount of people, at least in the town that I live in, they get pretty angry driving, horns honking, and gestures flying, that sort of thing. What's another example? Resistive thinking. In stores, you go to do business with, I don't know, just a department store, box store, whatever you call them, and there's a line and all that sort of thing, and I don't know, you seem to have people with their attitude of, I don't care if it says 8 items or less. I'm in this line already, and I'm just going to stay here. You'll just have to wait. I mean, that's the mentality that they have when they look at you, or if they interact with you, or if you seem or posture, that you're disgruntled with their way of thinking. Well, they're just having resistive thinking. It's, this is the way it's going to be. I don't care what the sign says. this is what I'm going to do, and nobody's going to come up to me and say, you have to get out of line and go over to that line over there. That's pretty resistive, huh? I'm feeling like there might be a little bit of road noise, you guys. We're going to bear with it and get up to our destination and we can stop, but I'm hoping it doesn't create a whole lot of disturbance while you're listening to this podcast. Resistive thinking with treatment. It's another example, right? We've touched on that one a few times, and it's pretty important. People take manifesting, for example. People want to manifest things quicker than it can normally happen. And they want to manifest things in the form and the shape and the color and the sizes and everything of their thinking. And they get really disgruntled, angry, throw their hands up in the air, and why isn't it going faster? What's wrong with this program? Why have I not manifested what I want? Where is it? It's resistive thinking. Just plain old resistive thinking. It's disturbing to people when things don't happen the way they want or expect things to happen. Pretty resistive thinking. What's another word for resistive thinking, everybody? I mean, you all know this kind of stuff probably as well as I do, and it's called narcissism, right? So narcissistic people will come off as resistive. Obstinate is another word. And it's, the world centers around me, right? Narcissism, the world centers around me. So everything should accommodate my needs and wants. Well, when you have that mentality, you have resistive thinking. All right. So I think we got enough examples of that, and most everybody has, a dozen or so examples in their own head right now as you're listening to this of resistive thinking, which is kind of like narcissistic thinking, narcissistic personality traits. The world centers around me and my needs and wants. So how do you deal with those people? Or if you have it yourself, how do you get out of it? Well, getting out of it is really not that complicated. And the people that have the resistive thinking probably lack a little bit of gratitude. Yeah? So you can see where gratitude immediately softens the resistance. So this is a tool. This is one tool you might use to work on your resistive thinking if you happen to be that way. And go get yourself a journal, piece of paper and a crayon, and every day for a month, write down 5 things that you're grateful for and you can't repeat from day to day or go back anywhere and repeat, that kind of thing. So it's forcing you to think in terms of gratitude. And that will soften that mentality of being resistant, being narcissistic. What's another tool? Another tool would be to have Oh, let's see. You could, I don't know, I guess I kind of like the idea of putting it on paper. But in today's world, it seems like maybe putting it on your phone might work just as well. What you have to do is be able to identify the times that you're doing resistive thinking. So, periodically throughout the day, let's say, I don't know, maybe midday and again in the evening, you have this little journal book going with your gratitude thing, right? Well, maybe there's another section in that book or on your phone. You can do it under notes and stuff. You can do all this stuff under notes, where you write down, where you're reflecting back on the past several hours of times that you were, acting in a resistant manner. You're not trying to stop them right now. You're just trying to identify them. Okay? And those are going to be the times where you feel sick. You ought to feel sick if you don't feel sick. You're just going to feel yucky inside, sick inside, nauseous inside. Your blood pressure will go up. You might get flush. You might get dry mouth. You might speak too fast. You might, who knows what you might do. Physiology, you guys, just think in terms of physiology, right? And all those times that are uncommon physiology could be times that you're having resistive thinking. Yeah? So you want to write those down. You're not trying to stop them. We're just trying to identify them, the times that you do this. Then at the end of, let's say you do this for, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 days or whatever. Hang on, more coffee. So, a couple days, 2-3 days, you should be able to start figuring out a pattern by going back through your notes and recalling, the morning and then the afternoon times that you were resistant in your thinking with people. The next step to that, of course, is you now have to start identifying those immediately and putting a stop to them. That's the pruning apart of the neurons, right? So when you get in lengthy lines, it's a big world, lots of people these days. So when you get in lengthy lines, you know that you're going to be vulnerable, according to your notes and what you've been doing, establishing patterns of when you get resistant. You know that those are the times you're going to be most likely to act in that manner. And you want to pay attention to that so that you can identify it more quickly. So you're going to do two things. You're going to know that from your patterns that you've been writing down and establishing that, this is a time where I'm more likely to be resistant in my thinking. And number two, going back through your notes, you're going to look at your physiology, because you're taking notes of, what kind of physiology are you having during those episodes. So when you get into a long line and you're not looking for them, you're not going out trying to find a long line so that you can feel this stuff, but you end up in one by happen chance, and all of a sudden you start noticing yourself getting flush. Maybe you feel, some anger, some tightness in your muscles, your stomach, getting queasy. your breathing changes, physiology stuff. Then you want to stop and you want to identify a word. There's all kinds of words. I don't care what words you use. I mean, I keep, as an example, just say change. That could be a word that you might use on a regular basis when you're wanting to stop that kind of behavior. So you would say change. And at that point, you understand that you need to change your physiology. Yes. And you need to change your thinking at that point. You need to soften, become a little more grateful, have some gratitude for what's going on in your life, and then go on with the activity that you're doing. Now, the first few times, it's going to be more difficult because you're having to consciously now prune apart that neuron connection that has caused, that belief system, perception. And you're trying to point it out and just stop that behavior. So there's a couple things you can do. We're going to use the example of being in the line, for instance, and it's not like you intentionally went and got in the line. You end up, there's a line. You start noticing your physiology changing. You're aware of the circumstances being in a lengthy line, even though you weren't trying to get in one. And you say the word change because you are aware of the chemistry that's going on. The emotions are going out of whack. You're becoming more obstinate, more resistant, more narcissistic. And that's where you just have to say change and then do a different behavior. Now, the different behaviors can be a lot of different kinds of things, right? Maybe initially, and it depends on how severe, your disturbance is. You might want to just leave that line. Say, excuse me. Take whatever it is that you're doing and go shop for another 5 minutes or something, or go to another line that's shorter. Yes? Not rocket science. We're just trying to break the physiology. We're trying to break the physiology, you guys. So that might be one thing you'd want to do. Yeah? All right. The other thing you can do is you can change the physiology. I mean, physically, you've gone ahead and moved to a different line. That's one thing you can do. Number two, you can change your breathing. You can learn little techniques to do 1 minute meditation. What do they call that on TV? That one broadcaster had a panic attack on TV. And then he became a spokesman for meditation. And I think it's called Calm. Yeah, I think it's called Calm. It's an app that you can go get and, practice with it. I have not listened to it, you guys. I apologize. But I'm fairly certain that it has something to do with learning how to do 1 minute meditations. So another way to change the physiology that you got going on, right, is to do, that little app called Calm, which is just doing some 1 minute meditations. All right, I'm in the parking lot where I do my research, so I'm going to park here. We should be back to quiet. My apologies if it got noisy. Go find somebody else to holler at. It's the best I could do. So that would be another thing that would be helpful to break the physiology. that you have going on. Resistant thinking. All right, so taking that thought process to the next logical level is that if you have resistant thinking, all right, this is, you guys, I don't know if you listen to me enough, and I hope you just don't listen to one podcast here and one podcast there, but, from time to time, getting kind of a pattern of following the sequence of all the different things that we talk about, because they're all interrelated and they all connect to working the program to being really healthy. And so if you have resistant thinking, where would I go with that conversation? The next place I would be going would be that you're attracting disease, illness, sickness, emotional issues, all kinds of stuff. You're back attracting the stuff that we're trying to break. All right. Your immune system goes down, lowers, right? So you become more vulnerable to up-regulating negative or unhealthy genes. Right? So resistant thinking is a really big deal. Actually, I'm probably, what's the word, underscoring it? It's probably a bigger thing than what I'm even talking about. Take it on a national level. And I do this periodically with you guys, and I just touch on it. I don't ever get going on and on, ranting and raving about it, but look at and again, I haven't watched TV in, I don't know, a few years or whatever. I might glance at a TV periodically, but I look at the internet. I used to read the internet and the political stuff and the daily goings on. I don't even do that. I can't remember the last time I did that. I think back during the election I was doing that on a regular basis or something. But so you've got to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that our culture has gotten more resistant. Our culture seems to be thinking with a fair amount of resistance. And that creates all kinds of separation or division in peoples, right? So the bigger picture is we take it from our little local stores in our little towns that we live in. We spread it into the state. Just take one political thing that's going on. Colorado, you have the marijuana, and we have a lot of people on both sides of that, and it's causing a lot of division. You've got morals and values and all kinds of things going on with that. And then you take it from the state up to the national level, and you look at the politics there, and it's just more division between people. More division. People are just a lot more resistant to hearing another person's side. So I try not to get into all of that stuff. I try not to. And I don't know. I guess at some point we're probably all going to have to deal with it. But for right now, resistive thinking is not on a neighborhood level. Heck, even take it smaller than that within the family. You have resistant thinking. Within your work company that you're employed with, you have resistant thinking. I hope not, but within your relationship with your partner, whoever that happens to be, you might have resistant thinking. And it just creates a lot of problems, and you need to find ways that I just went through on how you can specifically diffuse that. Follow that conversation to what do you do once you prune it apart? Then you have to put new stuff back in place. And how do you know what to put in place of resistant thinking? You know, you're not going to go get another opinion that you feel that strongly about, that you're going to be resisting other people. But you're going to work on the gratitude angle and trying to soften your mentality and your thinking in that maybe I don't have to be correct in this particular thing all the time. You know, stuff like that. So then you're going to substitute a softer you. Now there's a caveat with that, in that I don't want anybody to ever lose their personality, you know, who they are, what you believe in, and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm talking about, you know, all the negative things that no longer apply. Those are the things that you're changing so that you don't attract disease. But what I am saying is that, you know, you're a good person. You have all kinds of talents and attributes and positive, healthy, fun things in your personality, and I don't want to ever take that stuff away from you guys or even suggest or intend that I'm headed in that direction. But the unhealthy stuff, I think we definitely need to prune those neuron connections and synapses apart and put in place something that's a little more open to hearing other sides and discussions, but still maintaining who you really are. So, good little podcast for today. We deal with people with, you know, resistant thinking every day, probably every hour. It seems like I'm running into somebody that's acting that way. Maybe it's just this town. You know, we've gotten so many different people from all over the country moving in here. Population has gone from, I mean, it's a small town. Population's gone from when I moved here, I don't know, I think it was 28,000. We're now somewheres, I don't know, 170,000 people just in the city. So that's a lot of different people with different attitudes from where they came from, and that causes a fair amount of resistance. So I think I seem to run into it fairly often, and I don't know, that's probably part of the reason. But anyway, I hope you guys all have a good day. It's Monday. We got a week ahead of ourselves. I'm looking forward to today. Want to go in and do a bunch of research this morning, get that done, and hope you all take care of one another. God bless you. And I'll look forward to talking to you all again real soon. See you. Bye.